What's up, guys? I wanted to go ahead and give you another editor. This emblem here is for Black Ops 2. Again, this is going to be kind of complicated. I mean, it's going to take some time for you guys to actually do these. This is a Decepticon. One of my favorite shows growing up as a kid, Transformers. If you want this emblem, please be patient. No, I will not destroy it just to remake it. I do this to try to give you guys an idea of how to put it together. So please be patient when you're working on this. I will try to be as detailed as I can. This is a little more complicated to get the angles and the sketch and skew sizes appropriate. But if you want to achieve this, it is quite possible with some time and patience. And please remember, you can pause as often as you need to, rewind. You can actually save whatever progress you are at and come back and redo it again. But let me go ahead and get started. On your first layer, we have the rounded square, and that is a white background. Now on the colors, these are all up to you. I will show you the color that I actually use. Okay, that is white. For layer 2, I use the triangle wide. You can see I sketched and skewed it around. You can see it in your lower left corner. And the color that I used for it was the basic purple that is actually located right there. That was the color that I used. And that was the color that I used throughout. Whenever I refer to Decepticon purple, will be the fourth color from the top. Okay. Alright, moving on. I'll actually go through here so you can actually see the placement. Going on to layer 3, another wide triangle. Basically copy this one and paste it to here. Rotate it around, get it the size and position that you want it, and let it go. Now we're going to be cutting the edges off of these triangles, so it's not a big deal if it doesn't look right just yet. You can always come back and readjust. So it's not a big deal, guys. Don't try to make everything super perfect right away. I find myself when I make these, I come back and I start tweaking. So that will be something you will have to do. Layer 4, another triangle, the wide triangle, the triangle wide. Same purple, the Decepticon purple. And you can see its placement. I actually placed it right in the middle, and I'll actually select it so you can see the grid location. Okay, and it's kind of right in the center, just a smudge above, not far. Okay, now we're going to move on to layer 5. Now layer 5 is the transitioning that I used whenever I was wanting to give some coloration and shadowing to the Decepticon itself. I know there's a lot on YouTube and they look pretty basic. If you want a basic one, go there. If you want something that looks unique, come here. Alright, so going on from that, you got a triangle wide that I actually used, and I used them on, this is kind of tricky, guys. So I used the blue. You can see that color blue on your left hand side of the screen. Line it up with your color blue. Again, I'm using a different kind of TV. I'm using an LED TV. The coloration will look different on LED versus LCD. Even if you're on an old school CRT or plasma, all these colors will look totally different. So keep that in mind. So adjust the colors accordingly to what you think it represents. Okay, but I did use that color blue. Okay, and it was a wide, the triangle wide, and I lowered it down to 10% opacity, and that was to give it the darker purplish color. Okay, I did the same thing with the transformer, and basically, let me pause you right here. basically you can go back and copy each one of these three and just paste each one. Copy layer 2, paste it to 5, copy layer 3, paste it to 6, and so on. But basically all you're doing is you're going to change the coloration. I actually need to move this one around just a smudge. Basically all you're doing though is you're changing the coloration. And let me go back into it. So it's 10% opacity with that color blue, and it's kind of like a bright sky blue color. To me it looks like a bright sky blue. 10% opacity. Okay, and it just basically layers over top. If you'll see it on the right hand corner, it's on the left cheek of the Decepticon, and that just makes the purple darker purple. That's all it's going to do, guys. It's going to make it a darker purple. And you don't even have to do that, but let's keep going. Let's keep going. The wide triangle, of course, for the big V in the middle, the big triangle in the middle, and it looks like I still need to move it around just a smudge. Okay, but you can see that it goes directly over top of the triangle that you used to create his jaw, his lower jaw, or we'll call it a jaw. Okay, and I'll run back through these real fast so you guys can see. Okay, for layer 7, okay, I used the rounded square and I placed it, you can kind of see it's placed right above where the triangle is, just right above it, and that was a 100% purple, the Decepticon purple. And that's how I basically, I mean, it's gonna look like a big glob on your screen right now, but if you follow this, it'll turn out okay. So basically you use the Decepticon purple, okay, and you see the placement there right above the triangle that you rotated down for the chin. Okay, layer 8, we used the thimble. Okay, and I had to sketch and skew it around to give me the angle that I wanted. You can see the angle there. Once you get the angle, you have to pause. I'm doing it fast enough here for you guys to pause. Once you get that angle right, come into it. I did the opacity to 18%. I used the same sky, the bright sky blue color, but I used 18% opacity. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is the layer 9, which is the wide triangle, and that is for the right cheek. And that basically, I actually need to move it down just a smudge. That basically gives you the purplish, the darker color purple on his lower half, right jaw, his lower right jaw, wide triangle, triangle wide rather. 10% opacity, and I used the color bright sky blue again. Moving on, layer 10, a triangle wide, and that is for his left and right eye. Now you can see you'll have to sketch and skew around that triangle to get it into the right position, and that's just a standard white. That's all I used, was a standard white. Remember to pause and come back to this, just get the placement correct. And if you'll notice, your eyes line up pretty much with the same angles as the upper, and you'll see this at the end. Just keep your eyes on the right hand corner, like look at the right eye. You'll notice on the right hand side of the triangle, you'll see how it connects with the upper two slits that come out of the forehead. You'll notice that. You just kind of keep those in line, and that'll kind of help you with your sizing and positioning. I'm trying to give you some advice, guys. I can't come to your house and do it, or I would. Alright, And moving on to layer 12, I use the thimble. Okay, and you can see its positioning. It's not in a perfect position, but whatever. You can maneuver it around. It don't have to be, you know, exact or whatever. You can rotate it. You can see here that I'm actually rotating it right now. But I just use the thimble to kind of give it that upper swoosh, so it would actually cut into the top of the frame. Okay, and I use the 20% opacity, and I used a very light colored baby blue, and I believe it was this color right there. Okay, so let me go back to it again. 20% opacity, and it was the second up baby bluish color. Okay, and that's just to accent the shadowing on the colors. And I'll go through it again so you guys can see. Okay, now on layer 13 and 14, that is the sides, and I basically use the second lieutenant white to kind of just line everything up on the corners, and this is where you're going to start to see the shape start to take form. Basically I used it, I lined it up with you know, my eye and better judgment, and I just placed it in there. You can see with the grid how that actually looks. Okay, now that's a grid view, and pause it here and it'll actually help you come back and you can actually line everything up. Okay, moving on to layer 15, I use the perk greed. Okay, now some of this stuff you may have to play the game to actually unlock some of these, because this is a little more advanced. So I mean, you got to have some of these, or you may have to find some substitute. Okay, so I use the greed perk icon here, and I used it, and I had to sketch and skew it, and I used it on the layer 15 and 16, and it's all white. And you can see how I had to sketch and skew it around and get it into the location that I want. And again, you may have to place these and come back and tweak them. Okay, so that actually, people are like, you know, rip it apart, show us how you do it. I'm not going to rip it apart. If I recorded how long this took, you'd be sitting here watching an hour. Okay, so that's why I don't do that. Layer 17 is the triangle wide. It's white, and you can see in the center of the forehead, that is the center triangle. It's facing downward. You can see how it lines up on the grid. It's white. Okay, now that's a grid view. Now layer 18, I use the square full. That is white, and I used it on the top to kind of cut out some of the upper colors that were bleeding through. That's all I use that for. Layer 19, second lieutenant, and layer 20, second lieutenant, all white. And you can see how I had to sketch and skew it around to give me the actual angles. Let me move this one around just a fuzz to give me the angles that I needed on the center forehead area, and it kind of cleaned it up. Layer 21, second lieutenant, and layer 22, second lieutenant. You can see how that kind of came into place. I actually need to move some of this stuff around. I don't care to move some of this stuff around for you guys to kind of give you some idea of what's going on here. And you'll see me moving this one, trying to get it in position here. And that's as good as you can get it. Okay, so you see layer 21 and 22 is the second lieutenant white, and that is for the V that comes into the middle of his forehead. Layer 23 is the second lieutenant. It's been sketched and skewed around to give the basic, and I'll be moving some of these around on the screen, cleaning it up. And that's what I'm talking about, guys. You'll have to be cleaning this up as you're putting it together. I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I can come back and critique this over and over and over and tweak it and never have it perfect, because you're very limited to this. Okay, and you can see second lieutenant white, sketched and skewed and rotated around to the angle. Okay, same thing here, second lieutenant white for both 25 and 26 layer. Okay, and I'll show you a grid view. You can look at the grid, pause if you need to, get these right. Moving on, hate that this one's actually so long. This is the half heart. The half heart, I used it on the upper center of the head to actually give it the angles that it needed for the center of the top forehead. And I'll show you a grid view. And that's just white. Layer 29, I used the monolith, and that was just to fill in a, well, I used white and I used it to fill in, there was actually a little piece still sitting there, and I used it to take rid of that. Layer 30 and 31, I used the rounded square, and I used it to hide some things that were left over too. I mean, this is all pretty simple. It's time consuming to do this. I can't go into enough detail with you guys, but I will try to go through here. Let me try to go through here real slow for you guys so you can kind of see piece by piece. Once you're done, you can come back to here and actually look through and make sure you got everything lined up properly. And again, it's not hard to do, and if you're someone who gets easily frustrated, this is not for you to make. But I hope that you guys that actually have the patience and time actually enjoy this. Again, this is the Mad Review. Check me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, please feel free to do so. Again, I'll be continuing to make these emblems for you guys, and I appreciate all the support that I've got. Till next time, guys.